Good evening and welcome to our May 25th meeting. Call to order, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the May 25th, 2026 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:35 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. If you'll join me for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, moving on to the approval of the agenda, are there any amendments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are no amendments to the agenda as circulated.
Thank you. So moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as circulated. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, May 11th, 2026. Special meeting minutes, April 22nd, 2026. All those in favor? Carried. Now we're getting into the public meeting component of our meeting. Zoning bylaw 0726, Lancaster. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one public meeting this evening. Prior to getting started, I'll read required wording under the Planning Act. This is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend the public meeting and/or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of South Glengarry to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the OLT unless there are reasonable grounds to do so. This meeting will begin with a presentation summarizing the application, followed by a discussion period with an opportunity to provide input on the proposed bylaw. This property is located at part of Lot 12, Concession 7 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in South Glengarry, and it's pertaining to the lands surrounding the property addressed as 21765 Concession 7. You'll see on this map that we have an area that's blacked out, which is the subject property. There's an area that's removed from it, and that's because that was part of a severed process. The purpose of this amendment is to rezone the subject property from agricultural to agricultural exception 40, to reduce the minimum lot area from 20 hectares to 11 hectares, and to prohibit residential construction. All other applicable provisions of our zoning bylaw 3809 as amended shall continue to apply. The applicant was given provisional consent or severance approval by the United Counties of SD&G on March 26, 2026. A condition was required by South Glengarry to apply for a zoning amendment to reduce the minimum lot area and to prohibit residential construction on the retained lands. The reason for this condition is this is a requirement of the provincial planning statement. We have a few photos of the subject property. You can see the sign was erected at the laneway. However, the lands aren't, I mentioned, pertaining to the house. It was just a good location to put it on. It would be about the surrounding farmlands. So we have a few photos, so you can see the fields. A notice of public meeting was circulated to the neighboring property owners within 120 meters. A sign was erected along Concession Road 7, and an ad was also placed in the Standard Freeholder. We have not received any written or oral comments regarding the proposed amendment to date. This screen shows that zoning for the subject property is agricultural, and that's highlighted in green on this side, and the official plan designation is agricultural resource, which is beige on the right side of the screen. The subject property is currently designated, as I said, agricultural resource and is zoned agricultural in the township zoning bylaw. And as per delegated authority bylaw 05-2023 approved by council, the zoning amendment application will be subject to a decision of the general manager, which is myself or my delegate. And the reason for that is because recent changes to the Ontario Planning Act gave the authority to basically allow these processes to move along a little faster, being they've already been subject to a consent process and a zoning amendment process. And I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Lancaster, would you have further things to add, or are you satisfied with what was said? Okay, satisfied. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Are there any members of public on this particular file that wish to speak? Nope. Okay. Well, then it has been received, and then it will move along further for decision later. So thank you very much. No presentations or delegations this evening, so we'll move into action requests. The first one is 8A, Fire Services Mobile Tablet Project. It's Mr. Robertson. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2026-58 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry authorize a transfer of $7,500 from Modernization Reserve to fund the purchase of tablet computers and related equipment for fire services. Please proceed.
Good evening, Council. I report this evening. The Fire Services utilizes a records management system, and the purpose of that is to gather data, helps us to, one, track our inventory, track our responses, use that data to evaluate how we operate. One of the things that we're hoping to do is make some of those decisions and that data gathering process a little more efficient. What we're hoping to do is add tablet computers into our vehicles, into a number of our vehicles, so that we can begin that data, the acquisition of that data, a little more streamlining the process, so we can automatically enter that information into our records management system, negating some of the steps that we have now as far as how we glean that data and then process it at a later date. So what we're hoping to do is purchase 7 tablet computers. They would go into our frontline pumpers and 2 of our other units, and with that we would be able to get that information in a more efficient manner. So what we're hoping to do is utilize some of the funds that were provided in 2021, possibly. I might be wrong with that date, but the modernization fund that the province provided to municipalities such as ours. And what we're looking to do is utilize $7,500 to put these devices and the associated equipment into our vehicles. The one item that wouldn't not come up from that fund would be these devices, so that they can have connectivity. They would need to be cellular based, and that basically would be about $38.50 per month for all 7 of them. And that would be something that would continue on for the remainder of this budget year. We have funds that would meet those needs, but then in subsequent years, we would budget for those funds specifically. So, yeah, so if there's any questions of council, I'd be pleased to discuss.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you. Thank you. I know it's usual, so apologies, but yeah, no, that's all right. My question, first of all, thank you for bringing this forward. I think there's a lot of mobile type work, maybe not exactly like this, but similar in terms of working out of vehicles where it is much easier to put information on mobile, computing systems. My question to you, though, is do we have any prior experience in terms of using mobile devices? Where I'm going with this is just what kind of sense do we have that this is going to be robust enough and will be used as expected? Or are you looking at this more as a pilot? So looking to sort of your experience and insights on that. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. A few items on that. I personally utilize technology in this fashion ever since we moved on to our new records management program about 3 years ago. I've been doing it. I've sort of proven its concept internally with our own department. This is a common, our other partner agencies, the paramedic services, the OPP, police services, this is a model they've used for years and years. So many other fire services are currently utilizing it. When we brought our current records management system on 3 years ago, I wanted to do it in increments so that we could, so we didn't bite off more than we could chew at the beginning, and this would be just one of the next steps. So one other thing quickly that we'll also be able to bring a lot of the information that we have when we can load information from the incident, but we can also bring pre-plans, fire response plans, emergency plans, that type of information in a readily available application. So.
Thank you very much. And just looking at it, it is a less than $500 a year. You're likely going to save that in time spent, resetting and writing it by hand. So it's likely you'll see the equivalent or more on the other side. Any questions further? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Second one, rescind bylaw North Glengarry Automatic Aid Agreement. That's you, Mr. Robertson, again. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be resolved that Staff Report 2026-59 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby rescind bylaw 5414, being a bylaw authorizing an automatic aid agreement with the Township of North Glengarry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this action request would be to rescind, as mentioned, by law, and an agreement that we have with the municipality of North Glengarry, the Township of South Glengarry, North Glengarry, sorry, and their fire service. So in 2014, we signed an agreement with North Glengarry that would have them respond in an automatic aid situation. So properties, in essence, from about our northwestern corner along the First Canyon properties that we have there towards Green Valley, right across our shared border, and then in the northern half of the village of Green Valley from the CPR track and north, we entered into this agreement to have North Glengarry respond at the same time as South Glengarry did. And the reason why we did that was, at the time, the rail traffic on the CP line was heavier than it is now. We don't have the option in that location, or many of our locations actually in South Glengarry, of overpasses over rail lines. So we are halted in our emergency response if the situation is such. So that would be one. The geographic distance from their closest stations, be they Apple Hill for the west end or be they Alexandria for the center of a municipality, would be closer. We don't always just look solely at geographics. The town of Alexandria and traffic and sort of that limitation would be one of the considerations that we brought in also. But so in these 5.5 years since we brought this agreement forward, we have now reviewed the data. In that time, we responded to they responded to assist us 23 times. Of those 23, just as an example, there was only one structure fire that wasn't requested as mutual aid. Most of the responses would be medical in nature, which only was 3. Carbon monoxide alarms, incorrect locations, false alarms, and 1 vehicle fire. So many of those are not time critical to the degree that responding to life safety structure fires would be. So it's time to renew that agreement, and in that process, we reviewed the data. We don't feel that there is a specific benefit over that amount of time. It hasn't proven that there's a specific benefit to having North Glengarry respond automatically. So we're looking to rescind the bylaw and rescind that service that they're providing. Now, that being said, they're an equal and active participant in the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry Mutual Aid Plan, which we both actively operate under and within. If this rescinding of this only would remove the automatic response of North Glengarry to the set of homes. If they're requested to assist us for any reason, they have verbally and over the years in the mutual aid plan actively assisted us, and we've assisted them in times of need. So there really isn't going to be a change other than the automatic response for those, in essence, 23 calls over 5.5 years. So, of which very few were of significant need. So, yeah, it's a change on paper. Our relationship and our working together will remain as active as ever. So, if there's any questions, I would feel free to answer.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Fire Chief Robertson. Question, just for clarification, on the staff report, you refer to South Glengarry and North Glengarry both being signatories to the SD&G Mutual Aid Plan. And I would just like to understand, I understand that what we're sending here is automatic, but in terms of what that mutual aid plan that we are all signatories to, if you could just briefly outline what that encompasses, please.
Sure, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess maybe I'll step back and talk about fire agreements for a moment, and I'll just speak to the different types, and then that may answer your question. So a mutual aid agreement, which we're signatories, means that we can, in essence, go anywhere in the province to assist another municipality with assistance, if they require our assistance. Obviously, the vast majority of the times would be to near neighbors, but it's not necessarily always to near neighbors. In the past year, we've assisted North Dundas with incidents. At times, we've had Ottawa assist us in the past. Now, if Council may recall, in recent months, we've signed on to another fire service agreement with the City of Ottawa that actually, if there's certain technical rescue types, we can activate them. We already have a signed agreement, so the procedure and the financial structure are already set. So that would be another type of fire response agreement. And then there's automatic aid agreements where it's predetermined for property X. If that property, another municipality would automatically respond to assist. North Glengarry does it with an area just west of Maxville as an example for North Stormont because it's so close. We cover one property in our southwestern corner that actually is in South Stormont, but the time it takes for them to come around, to come back through just because of the roads network, actually proves it's easier for us to respond to it. So those are the different structure types, agreement types. So, yeah, did that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Moving to bylaws, zoning bylaw 0626, Living and Roman Catholic Episcopal Corporation, Mrs. Haley. And the motion is a long one, so please bear with me. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-60 be received and that bylaw 2026-37, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to rezone the lot legally described as part of Lot 1, Concession 9, being Part 1 on Reference Plan 14R 5198, and being part of Part 4 on Reference Plan 14R 1106 in the geographic township of Schlottenburg, now the township of South Glengarry, county of Glengarry, located at a portion of the subject lands addressed as 4182 County Road 34 from Residential 1 R1 to Residential 2 R2 to recognize an existing duplex dwelling and to rezone the southern portion of the subject lands from Residential 1, that's R1, and Institutional IN to Residential 2 Exception 5 R2-5, to permit a semi-detached dwelling to require the front lot line to be located on 3rd Street to reduce the minimum lot area for each semi-detached dwelling unit from 930 square meters to 600 square meters, and to reduce the minimum lot frontage from 20 meters to 18 meters per dwelling unit be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 25th day of May, 2026. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that all comments from the public were received and considered on the decision, but did not result in the need to deny or defer the request. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, this property is located in the settlement area of Green Valley, and a portion of the property is addressed as 4182 County Road 34. The property is approximately 0.67 acres in size. It's located on the corner of County Road 34 and 3rd Street, and it's serviced by municipal wastewater and a private well. The subject property currently contains a duplex dwelling, a detached garage, and a paved parking area. The purpose of this amendment is to rezone a portion of the lands from Residential 1 to Residential 2 to recognize the existing duplex dwelling, as well as to allow the southern portion of the subject property to be rezoned to Residential 2 Exception 5 to permit a future semi-detached dwelling to be constructed, and also to require the front lot line to be located on 3rd Street, to reduce the minimum lot area for each semi-detached dwelling unit from 930 square meters to 600 square meters, and to reduce the minimum lot frontage from 20 meters to 18 meters per dwelling unit. All other applicable provisions of our zoning bylaw 3809 as amended shall continue to apply. You'll see in the staff report that we provide detailed information explaining how this proposed development conforms to the provincial planning statement as well as the official plan. So I'm not going to get into all of those details. On April 27th, we had a public meeting pertaining to this zoning amendment. The proposed zoning amendment was circulated to all the abutting property owners within 120 meters, which is regulated, and it was also advertised in the Standard Freeholder. At the public meeting, there were 4 members of the public in attendance. 1 member spoke in favor of the proposed amendment, and 1 expressed concerns indicating the development would impact their view looking north, and concerns that additional new drilled wells may impact their well. We also circulated the application to the United Counties of SD&G Transportation Department because this does front on County Road 34. And the counties responded with indicating they had no concern with the proposed amendment as they relate to the county road network. It's important to note upon completion of the required road widening that the lot frontage will be reduced by an additional 5 meters As a result, the eastern portion of the lands proposed for the semi-detached will see a reduction in frontage from the 18 meters to 13 meters. So I'm just going to speak to you or explain why this isn't a concern, because you'll see that we're looking to reduce that frontage for each future semi to be 18 meters. The way the bylaw reads and measures lot frontage is if you have a parcel of property where the lots lines are not parallel, then you actually measure your lot frontage by going back 6 meters. So that would allow you to have like pie-shaped lots and cul-de-sac lots and things like that. That allows you to have a wider portion of your frontage measured at a back. So I appreciate the county's comment on that, but it doesn't apply in this case because of the definition. As you're aware, we are required to make decisions on zoning bylaw amendment applications within 90 days of receiving a complete application. And if council makes a decision this evening, a decision will be made on day 54. We are recommending that this application be approved. It is consistent with the provincial planning statement. It conforms to the official plan. We are certainly wanting to see more housing be built in South Glengarry. It's nice to see housing other than single detached dwellings, as we're hearing more and more from the community that they're looking for different style of housing. And as I mentioned, this property can be serviced by municipal wastewater, which helps as well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from council on this particular matter? All right, call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Item 9B is zoning bylaw 0426, Fountain Planning and Design, Arcane Defense. This is Mrs. Haley. It's another longer one. So moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-61 be received and the bylaw 2026-38 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to rezone the property legally described as part of lot 8, concession 9 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in the township of South Glengarry, county of Glengarry, fronting on 4th Line Road, County Road 23, and concession 10, pin 671530439, from rural RU to rural exception 26, RU 26, to permit a recreational commercial establishment consisting of an indoor firing range and its accessory components, including a retail store, training facility, and a canteen, to reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces from 130 to 50 spaces, and to reduce the minimum number of loading spaces from 1 to 0, with all other applicable provisions of the zoning bylaw 3809 as amended, continuing to apply, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 25th day of May 2026. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby confirms that all comments from public received on this application, including the petition, were carefully considered. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you mentioned in the proposed resolution, that the subject property is located at Lot 8, Concession 9 in the geographic township of Lancaster on the corner of 4th Line Road, also known as County Road 23, and Concession 10. The subject property is located on that southeast corner and is approximately 27.7 acres in size and contains 2 existing small sheds. It's predominantly tree covered. There's the east branch of the McDougall Municipal Drain that runs north to south through the property on the eastern portion. And many of you may remember this property to be used as a former salvage yard, and that use has discontinued for about approximately 20 years. The lands surrounding the subject property are characterized as a mix of rural land uses. There are 3 residences immediately abutting the subject property, located at 21914 Concession 10, 21950 Concession 10, and 3729 4th Line Road. There are residences on larger rural lots across Concession 10 and 4th Line Road, and Concession 10 is a border road between the townships of North and South Glengarry. The applicant filed an official plan amendment to amend the official plan for the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry to redesignate approximately 7 hectares of the subject property from salvage yard district designation to a rural district, as the remaining 4 plus 8 hectares of the subject property was and is currently designated rural district. This official plan amendment application was approved by SDG County Council on April 20th, 2026. That designation is now in effect as the appeal period expired on May 14th, and 2026, and no appeals were received. The applicant also filed a site-specific zoning amendment, and the applications were processed simultaneously with the OPA. However, the OPA is required to be completed before a decision can be made on the zoning amendment. And the reason for that is that zoning always must conform to the official plan. On December 9th of 2025, the township received the zoning amendment application. Additional information supporting the application was requested, resulting in the application being deemed complete on February 13th, 2026. The purpose of that zoning amendment, or this zoning amendment, is to rezone the subject property from rural to rural exception 26 to permit a recreational commercial establishment consisting of an indoor firing range and its accessory components, including a retail store, training facility, and a canteen. It's also requesting to reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces from 130 spaces and to reduce the minimum number of loading spaces from 1 to 0. All other applicable provisions of the zoning bylaw as amended shall continue to apply. The zoning amendment was supported by several studies, including a planning rationale, a sound transmission and acoustic mitigation letter feasibility, an environmental impact study, a geotechnical subsurface investigation, and a Phase 2 environmental site assessment. Throughout the remainder of my staff report, or in the next sessions of my staff report, I speak to how this proposed zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the provincial planning statement and the official plan. And you'll see that there's several pages that I've written in breaking down each applicable sections of these planning documents and how it does conform. I'll speak to a few of them in a little bit more detail in a minute. So a notice for the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment was circulated to the neighboring property owners within 120 meters of the proposed site. A sign advertising the proposed amendment was placed on the subject property, and it was also advertised in the Standard Freeholder newspaper. A public meeting was held on March 23rd, 2026. As part of the circulation notice, we are obligated to also notify residents on the north side, which happen to be residents of the Township of North Glengarry. I know that came up in some of the public comments, and they were provided copies of the notice, and they were sent copies in the mail, as all the other applicable parcels of property on the South Glengarry side. So as I mentioned, we had a public meeting on March 23rd of 2026. There were 29 members of the public in attendance. 10 members spoke during the public meeting. 6 members of the public spoke in opposition to the proposed use, and 2 members asked questions, while 2 members spoke in favor of the proposed use. A petition was filed at the public meeting containing 33 signatures, which represents 24 property owners within the area of the subject property, requesting council to dismiss the proposal. As of authoring this report, at the time of authoring the report, we had received 79 written comments regarding the proposed amendment. Over the weekend, we have received 4 additional comments, and some of them came through council, some of them came through me directly, and some were individuals that had previously commented. 6 written comments out of all the comments received are in opposition to the proposed amendment, and 73 comments are in favor of the proposed amendment. Of the supportive comments, 58 followed a standardized template, and the 6 written comments in opposition to the proposed amendment are from nearby property owners, and their concerns, as I summarize them as follows, are noise affecting both residential uses and livestock, increased traffic, the reasonable enjoyment of nearby properties, drainage, and property values. You'll also see in the report that we provided a chart that explains kind of how the comments, or the number of comments that were received. The proposed amendment was circulated to the United Counties of SDG Transportation Department as it fronts on County Road 23 or 4th Line Road, as well as the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. We've received comments from both agencies, and they are both supportive of the proposed amendment. The proposed amendment was also reviewed by Infrastructure Department and Drainage Township staff, and they have no concern with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. I'm now going to speak to a little bit more detail on some items. There have been some comments or questions about noise evaluation requirements. So when we're looking at noise for uses that are proposed that could negatively impact existing sensitive land uses, and a sensitive land use would be an example of a residence, we are obligated to follow the Ministry Environment of Conservation and Parks, also known as MECP, the Environmental Noise Guideline, NPC 300. The purpose of this guideline is to provide advice on sound level limits and guidance that may be used when land use planning decisions are made under the Planning Act. The MECP, that ministry, has no authority under the Planning Act and has no direct role in the land use planning processes, which is why the guideline speaks to it being the responsibility of the decision-making bodies like council. This guideline is used for planning authorities. It is intended to minimize the potential conflict between noise-sensitive land uses and source of noise emissions while being supportive of the provincial planning statement. When you look at Part C of this guideline, it speaks to land use planning and the feasibility or detailed noise impact studies that can be required by land use planning authorities. And in this case, it's the township. So we're not obligated to ask for them, but we are obligated to look at this policy. And in this particular case, we requested a feasibility of the noise and how it could potentially impact the existing property owners. I know some comments received were questioning why a feasibility or why a letter versus a noise study. The guideline does not explain how they have to be written. They don't give a template of what they look like. So you could have submissions prepared by professional engineers that address noise that look in different ways. In this particular case, it was in the form of a letter. The objective of the feasibility study is to establish the feasibility of the proposal in the context of site design and the extent of noise control measures such as barriers, ventilation requirements, and building components. Feasibility studies should be undertaken early in the land use planning process and subject to the policies of the Land Use Planning Authority, submitted with the initial proposal and reviewed for acceptance as early as possible in the land use planning approval process for the proposed development. So as I mentioned earlier, we received this application initially in December, and we did require additional information. So in that additional information, we asked for more detail to be provided within the feasibility noise letter. So we received a revised letter. It's titled Sound Transmission and Acoustic Mitigation Measures, and it was completed by a professional engineer. The additional information was to explain the impact to the nearest sensitive land use. The guideline recommends that the feasibility study should be reviewed for acceptance prior to adoption of zoning bylaw amendments or other land use planning application. And that's what has occurred in this particular case. When the author is writing a feasibility study, they must consider the following: determining the feasibility of the project, addressing outdoor and indoor acoustical environments as appropriate, investigation of feasible means of noise impact mitigation, ensuring that the required noise control measures are incorporated in the development, and describing the technical details and clarifying the responsibility for the implementation and maintenance of the required noise control measures. According to the guideline, this subject area or property falls within a Class 3 area, and that means it's a rural area with an acoustical environment that is dominated by natural sounds, having little or no road traffic, such as a small community, an agricultural area, a rural recreational area, such as a cottage or a resort area, or a wilderness area. The anticipated noise levels within the proposed structure, but outside of the firing range, and I'm going to explain that in a little bit more detail, based on the application, the entire structure is to contain a indoor firing range. It'll contain common areas as well as classrooms. So within the firing range is to be a box inside a box type design. Inside that box, your sound levels are much higher. When you're outside that box, but still within the building, the noise is still anticipated to be quite low and well within the acceptable levels. So the anticipated levels within that proposed structure, but outside of the firing range, They are expected to be far lower than the acceptable 45 and 40 decibel limits. And 45 is for daytime and 40 is for nighttime, as per the guidelines. This property, if it's approved as zoning amendment, will be subject to site plan control. That site plan control approval process will also include the location of the structure. It'll control the removal of the vegetation as recommended in the environmental impact study, which will also assist with mitigating any noise. I'm now going to speak with traffic. So traffic has been brought up a few times in comments from members of the public. A traffic study was not required by both the township and the SD&G Transportation Department. The reason why this was not required is the staff for these departments did not anticipate the traffic to be extremely high. They felt that the roads could accommodate the traffic that would be generated by this proposed use. A reduction in parking request does not mean that we have not considered traffic. So when you read the reduction in parking requests, it sounds like we're reducing the parking dramatically. And just to review that, the request is to go from 130 to 50 parking spaces. So I want to explain this a little bit. Every zoning bylaw in the province would have parking provisions. It's almost impossible to list every type of use or building in a zoning bylaw and have a calculation for everyone. So you often have buildings that are lumped in together in certain categories that will require the same amount of parking. So if you can picture a facility like this, when you're having a large portion of that facility to be used as a firing range, that firing range is not accommodating people. You're not going to have tables or chairs or bedrooms or, furniture in there. So it's a lot of space that doesn't trigger the requirement for parking. And when you look at the request to reduce it and their request to include 50 parking spaces, it makes sense based on how they intend to operate this use, both in terms of having individuals there to use the firing range, as well as some classroom settings at that time. So again, to be clear, we have considered traffic, and we've also considered that the requested parking makes sense for the proposed building design. We've also received from comments in regards to the environmental impact study. So we require an environmental impact study when there are wetlands on the subject property. These wetlands could be locally significant, which are not really required to be enforced. They could be provincially significant wetlands, which are very much required to be protected and enforced. They also could be evaluated wetlands or unevaluated wetlands or coastal wetlands. So there's lots of different types of wetlands that we can look at when we look at our policies. And we will trigger what's called an environmental impact study to have a qualified biologist review the wetland on site. This evaluation was completed, and it was also peer-reviewed by the township. The reason why we have it peer-reviewed is because we do not have a qualified biologist on staff, nor does the local conservation authority have that role anymore due to recent changes to their legislation. So we retain an outside firm to do this review. The unevaluated wetland was not a candidate for further evaluation due to the lack of size, diversity, and it is a very uniform wetland. Regardless of the evaluation, the development will meet the required 30-meter setback, which is the setback. It's the same setback if this were a provincially significant wetland. So what I want to explain is just because this wetland was unevaluated by the province and had the label of unevaluated, we did look at it. And regardless of what type of vegetation, flora, and fauna were found, it's being treated like it's a provincially significant wetland because we are proposing they are proposing that the development will be beyond that 30-meter setback. And they're also proposing the development to be beyond the 30-meter watercourse setback from the municipal drain. You may have also noticed in the environmental impact statement that the subject property is well vegetated, and it's recommended that only 0.067 hectares are proposed to be cleared to accommodate that proposed development. So it's not like the whole parcel of property will be clear cut. There will be still lots of vegetation remaining. Also, during the review, the EIS found butternuts, and the facility will be located 131 meters away from the nearest butternut, so it will remain protected. So, going back to summarizing the remainder of my report, is when we receive a combined official plan amendment and zoning bylaw application, we have 120 days to make a decision as opposed to 90. If council makes a decision this evening, it will be made on day 101, so we're meeting the timelines of the Planning Act. And you will see in the report that I am recommending that this report be approved, as I feel it does conform to the provincial planning statement and the official plan. And that's it for my portion of the presentation. Mr. Mayor, I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the table? I have a question. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Jaworski.
A question for Ms. Haley. Thank you, first of all, very much for your very thorough review of the file and addressing all the, having, some commentary on all the different points that were raised by the public. Thank you for that. My question to you is just for like a reminder in terms of what types of activities are permitted like on that property today without any zoning amendments. Like off the top of my head, I'm thinking like a riding school, a sawmill, maybe some sort of accessory workshops to farming businesses, that sort of thing. If you could elaborate on that.
Sure. So through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that question. So the subject property is currently zoned rural, and in the rural zone, there's a myriad of uses that are permitted, but to highlight the primary ones, first of all, an agricultural use is permitted, and an agricultural use is allowed, you can have livestock as long as it's over 2.5 hectares or 6.14 acres. And an agricultural use could be anything from a dairy barn, a pig barn, a chicken barn, to cash crop. You're also permitted to have a single detached dwelling. You mentioned a riding stable, so an equestrian establishment is permitted, a sawmill, a greenhouse, a nursery. You can have, with your home, you could have home industries. Home industries could be example like a contract yard associated with your, accessory with your residence. You could have cabinet making, woodworking type things. I can't recall if I said a sawmill already. You could have a group home. We could have a bed and breakfast. Like there's many different permitted uses on that parcel of property that wouldn't trigger a zoning bylaw amendment. That could go straight to a building permit or straight to activity if it's agricultural related.
In the case of those, a noise study would not typically, if there's no zoning amendment, there would be no noise study that would be required. Is that correct?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, we only require noise studies when land use planning applications are required. So planning applications like official plan amendments, zoning amendments, site plan control, or subdivisions would be the main ones.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Councilor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I guess a question. I think it was more or less answered, but I guess through the noise study, what form of insurances do we have that it's not lip service to an extent? I mean, we give everybody the same benefit of the doubt that their intention is to follow the rules. If for some reason the decibels are well above the acceptable values or limits, is there any enforcement, or is there anything we have that way based on that this will be part of a bylaw, or does that come at site plan control?
So again, through you, Mr. Mayor, noise is not regulated through zoning amendment decisions, if you will, although we are permitted to ask for the information as part of a complete application, as I explained. In this particular case, we know that the proposed structure is proposed to be located approximately 100 meters from the nearest dwelling. We also know that the subject property is primarily vegetated, and we know that the environmental impact study recommends that approximately 0.67 hectares of vegetation is to be removed, meaning that a lot more of the land will be, will remain as vegetated. It is subject to the site plan control approval process if council approves a zoning amendment. In that site plan control approval process, we are able to include in a site plan control agreement the location of the structure to ensure that it is located as far away as possible as the nearest residential uses, as well as respecting the setbacks to the wetland, as I indicated, and any other features that were recognized in the environmental impact study where vegetative setbacks or buffers were required. So that will be included in the site plan control agreement. With this facility having other accessory uses like the canteen, the classroom settings, we believe that they want to mitigate as much noise as possible. If not, that's going to be a difficult facility to use. If there's so much noise happening on the indoor, you wouldn't even be able to operate your classrooms or et cetera. So we will be looking to see that if they get to the building permit stage, again, subject to, this being approved, site plan control being approved, et cetera. If, for example, to answer your question, the last portion of your question, if the noise turns out to be higher or worse than what was anticipated or what this feasibility letter indicated, we would then be working with the property owner and implementing the site plan control agreement as well as our nuisance bylaw. And how that would all play out, I wouldn't be able to give you an exact scenario because it really does depend on the type of complaint that's received, the type of noise, et cetera. But I believe that answers your question.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks, Ms. Haley, for the presentation. It's very thorough. And I want to thank members of the public that are here for and against. It's been, people have been quite involved all the way through, as you've seen by some of the ones we had before. Sometimes nobody shows up, so it's nice to have people that are thinking about things and interested in what's happening in our community. So when I read through all, this is just a comment of mine, I'm going to vote in favor, but just reading through all the comments, and especially the ones we're against, a lot of it seemed to be about noise, and I think that issue has been addressed. I mean, we'll see if it does come to play that's the levels that are going to be there. But I think the property value one would be decreased because of noise. I think the noise was the biggest issue. Don't have a problem with traffic. I mean, there's a county road right there, which is meant to handle much more cars than that road handles at the moment. So that's what I'm going to vote for, and the reason I'm going to do it. But just want to thank everybody for being involved. Much appreciated.
I would like to ask a question. I apologize. I should have maybe vetted this one through earlier, so it will be a surprising question. In past examples where we've had some community pushback, say Beaupre Road and South Lancaster, we have asked for a recorded vote. Is that something we wish to do here, just to keep consistency? I'm not going to change my vote. I know how I think I've indicated it to some people who've contacted me. I'm similar to Deputy Mayor Lang. But just because, again, it is something where there's some pushback, and it's sometimes nice to be held to account. And going into election year, naturally, it's top of mind, but it's just something. So if that's something that's wanted, but didn't want to force it, and I apologize for bringing it up last minute. I should have floated that idea by earlier.
Would you like to come from council rather than from the mayor? I'll ask for it then.
Okay.
If I have no problem at all with
I
that.
didn't want to impose it upon. Okay.
I'll ask for it.
Okay, thank you. And that then allows me to have a moment to say why I feel the way a little bit more than just hiding behind council's decision. We'll go to Councillor Jaworski.
I'd like to go last. Sure. Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. Yes, very similar to what the Deputy Mayor's mentioned is that we don't generally have a lot of involvement. Generally we don't get any comments. So I wanted to make my comments because I want to acknowledge that this is controversial and share my thought process on it. One of the concerns that was raised was that the support of the application was, driven primarily from folks who aren't community members. So one thing that I did when I was going through the comments is I looked at each one. I looked at their addresses. I actually put them on a map to try to get a sense of, where was the opposition and the support. And what was interesting about this, so I I set aside all the comments that were not from North or South Glengarry. I included North Glengarry because this application is right on the border. So looking at those and including the petition and including the long form comments, it was interesting that this is an application where there's actually sort of an equal number of support versus opposition, which isn't something we typically receive. Normally we get all opposition and maybe one letter of support. So it was interesting that there was quite equal. And to me, that sort of indicated that there is kind of broad support for a service like this within South Glengarry. However, obviously digging deeper in terms of close proximity to the project, when you looked at it there, then there was more opposition than there was support, but there is support. I spoke to some folks. I received letters from some folks who are on the concession 10 and who are on Fourth Line who are supporting the project. But there is more opposition than support in proximity. And like the deputy mayor said, one of the items that really seems to be the focus and sort of so many of the other concerns fall out from the issue of noise. I'm not familiar at all with firearms. It's not something myself has been interested in, or neither my family. So tried to educate myself as much as I could, trying to understand if what is being suggested is even possible. And so through that, understanding that there are indoor firing ranges in different buildings. There's a prominent one in Ottawa that I've been to that recreation center, but I had no idea that there was an indoor firing range. So it does sound like it is possible to make indoor firing ranges with limited impact on the surroundings. But again, I know it comes down to if what is being proposed and what actually comes to fruition is, they line up, and that's where, Councillor McDonnell's comments are very important in terms of like how we can follow up, because I think we do have to acknowledge that the follow-up on this is not straightforward. However, we also normally assume that when folks are doing these presentations that they are going to live up to what they do. That is generally that is the approach that we take. We don't assume that people are not going to live up to their commitments. So I think, again, agreeing with the Deputy Mayor that the issue of noise should be, it seems to me, in my understanding of the subject, that it will be well controlled, and it will certainly be less than so many of these other uses that would be permitted today. Ones that we know that can be much more problematic, like having a sawmill nearby. And in terms of another issue is about having an outdoor shooting range. That's not what's on the table. If that were to be on the table, it would have to be an entirely new process. And I think the opinions on that, certainly from my standpoint, would be very different, because I think then we're talking about the issues of like noise mitigation is an entirely different story, and issues of safety and security as well. So. And I do think in terms of a building like this, in terms of traffic like this, I do think we have examples similar, it's not a firing range, but similar commercial enterprises that sort of dot our township in proximity of residential uses, which seem to cohabitate fairly well. Don't have I'm thinking of some of the machining operations, some of the tractor supply operations that we have in different places that seem to cohabitate well enough. So so generally speaking, I'm not enthusiastically in support of this, but I think what's been brought forward, I think it would make it very difficult to deny this based on what's been provided by the applicant and its consistency with other areas within our township.
Thank you, Councillor Bougie, and then Councillor McDonnell will go, then Deputy Mayor Lang, and then myself.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Haley, for being very thorough, going through each area of concern. And I did definitely get lots of emails and some calls in regards to certain issues. Noise, obviously, was one major concern. And I feel like that's been addressed, especially with the report as well that was provided. I am in favor of this. I feel like it does meet a need and will meet a need for not only South Glengarry but surrounding areas. I think we have a long history of whether it's military or law enforcement, and I feel like this will provide a venue for those individuals to train, as well as local residents as well to use the facility and to be trained as well. So I think it will help our local businesses. There is some retail space there as well that I think will be an asset. So not discounting all of the concerns, but I feel like they have been addressed throughout this process, and I will be voting in favor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I won't belabor my comments as well. I think I agree with most of what was said here by my council colleagues, but as well, I was pleased to see that the applicant was forthright coming forward and open with the potential impacts and how they were planning to mitigate them. We've seen, not to point fingers at any individual applicant, but from time to time, they're not always as forthcoming with information that we're asking. I feel that in this case, everything was laid out very plain and clear for us, and any additional information that was asked for was we then did receive it. I think at this point, extending the period or delaying the decision is not warranted at this point. I think we have the information we need. Again, the noise impacts was, I think, the major concern, or where all of concern kind of stemmed from. I think that it's probably going to draw a decent crowd. It won't be like they'll be overflowing onto the roads. I don't think every week, but I think it'll be well used, and it'll service a need in the community, and will generate some job revenue as well as some a higher property tax increase, and it's always good for everybody in the community, and it's good to see some development going on in a portion of the municipality that we don't always see, specifically commercial or retail space open up. So happy to see that, and again, like the others have said, not to discount the opposition or the support. At the same time, too, I ran a similar exercise to Councillor Jaworski. 75 people sent in support. 56 of that is more or less form lettered, and I've spent enough time working with different levels of government to know that sometimes it's there's not the same effort put into an email or a letter or a phone call that's put into plug and play emails or your postal code and your name to fill in a letter. So I do kind of discount some of the support in that sense, and the ones that are coming from out of the municipality, but there does seem to be local support for this as well. So I take that into consideration, and I seriously take into those that are going to be directly affected by it as abutting property owners. But at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to make a decision that is right for the municipality. Sometimes it's a very difficult decision when you try to separate emotion from it, and what legally is best for the municipality at the end of the day as well. So that's why I'll be supporting the application.
Deputy Mayor Lang, you kind of spoke first, but did you want to say anything further, or? Okay, you're good? Okay, so I have similar feelings. As not to belabor, I do like that Councillor McDonnell talked about the recourse if something's not met, and it seems like we have some recourse, because that would be a concern but we do generally assume and set the expectation that good people do good things for our community, so I'm assuming that happens in most cases. On the outdoor one, because that sometimes muddied, I don't think my opinion would be the same for an outdoor facility. We've seen it in South Stormont be quite a big issue, and regardless of mitigation, it would travel quite a bit further. I do like your formwork thing, because I remember Save Charlan. I think I sent formwork on behalf of that department, and it was easier and it wasn't as heartfelt. So I appreciate that portion. So the noise is the big thing for me, and I do believe from everything I've read that the sound of leaves, it's not leaves beside you, it's leaves outside the building. So I'm again expecting that to be the outcome, and that is very rural. A few of the comments from April 13th that I thought about addressing, like property value, I understand there's been varied property value from 3% to 30%. The one that I found was it was 3%. I think it said 14% or 17% decrease in property value for a cemetery. So my family home is actually more affected by being beside a church than this, according to one of the studies. But there are varied ones, so that's always hard when you have various studies. Safety was something. one comment somebody made was men with guns, and I just kind of, I thought, and I've said it a few times, that it's not men with guns, it's bad men. Most men are pretty good. So I think in Canada, where our gun laws are at a higher level than the United States, it's harder to procure a gun. You're getting a lot of people with, like, they want this to be successful and they want it to be good too. So this is going to be men, but not bad men with guns, and that, I think there's that perception of safety. So I think I've gone a little bit on, and the last notice was that you consulted our drainage coordinator, and I like that because that was another pretty decent concern. It's how the water's going to flow. You don't want to flood out people or affect agriculture. So I will be voting in favor too. You call the recorded vote, Madam Clerk.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So I will call a recorded vote. I'll call upon each member individually, and please indicate whether you support or yea or nay, support or oppose the vote. So I'll start with Councillor Bougie,
Yes, I will support.
Councillor McDonnell,
In favor.
Councillor Jaworski,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Lang,
In favor.
and Mayor McDonald.
In favor as well. So that means carried. I also thank council for accepting the recorded vote. I just thought it was what we've done whenever there's been community feedback, so thank you for allowing that to continue. There were no items pulled from the consent agenda. So moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Board and committee updates. I didn't look through the county council one. Can I throw that to you, Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and feel free to add if I may miss something. Just some highlights from our county council meeting, which was last Tuesday, May the 19th. The surface renewal overlay tender was awarded to Cornwall Gravel for $592,784, and that does include, or that actually was more than that. That part is South Glengarry's part. Sorry, make sure I got that right. It was several million, but South Glengarry's portion was that, and I'm glad to see us participating in a joint tender. I think it's always good. Avonmore storm sewer lining, $400,000 approximately. Diesel and gasoline tender for the next 3 years for the counties, and I believe we participate in that at South Glengarry as well. So they have there's I don't know how I guess a broadcasted price or a posted price out of the Ottawa area, and then they plus or minus on that price. And so we've locked in our price for the next 3 years for fuel. Some exciting news and some sad news. At the same time, our new CAO was appointed, James Fothrop, which is great for the counties and sad for us to see him go. There was updated signing authority. Let's see what else we have here. Forest management plan. The county's managing almost 10,000 acres of county forest, and we're looking to update our forest management plan for the next 20 years. They go for quite a long time because forests are not managed quickly. It's a time thing. So we'll taking comments over the next little while. There's a draft plan out there now. If anybody is interested, go on the website. I'm sure you can find it, and you can make comments, or we may even solicit comments there before long. But we're looking to get this in place by the end of the year for the next 20 years. SDNG Reads, maybe, do you want to talk to that? It's Sherry LePenier, is that the name? You know you're on the library committee?
Yes, I'm not great with remembering names, but that does sound right. It will be in Avonmore. I believe it's in October. I forget the date exactly. But you can get a book locally. If you're on a book club, you can get more than one book. Everybody's excited. Last time they had it sold out. There's VIP ticket experience, which you can purchase. And additionally, it's sold out, so get your tickets quickly. They're free unless it's VIP.
Yeah, I went last year, and it was quite good, and I think people really appreciate it, and I'll be surprised if it's not sold out again. I think this is a pretty well-known author. That's it for my report. Thank you.
Are there any reports? Councillor Bougie, and then Councillor Jaworski.
Through Mr. Mayor, the Heritage Advisory Committee had met. We had a couple things on the docket. So one being the South Lancaster Heritage Conservation District study, and we had some options on the table, whether to move on with the study for a district area, Heritage Conservation District area, or to proceed with the designation of individual properties in South Glengarry. And the committee decided to go with or recommend to council option 2 to proceed with the designation of individual properties in South Lancaster, understanding the fact that there was a lot of public input, and we took that into consideration. But ultimately, that's where we decided to go, and maybe it could be revisited in the future if there are individual properties that do buy in and ultimately designate their homes. So that's the recommendation coming to council. The second was the Curry House. They had requested to remove their heritage designation, which the Heritage Committee looked closely at and ultimately decided that there was lots of debate, but being it was the third oldest in South Glengarry, or maybe it was third oldest in Charlottenburg or Lancaster, sorry, we weren't 100% on that one, but we thought that maybe the inside of the house wasn't as maybe heritage because it's been done over many, many times, but we thought that maybe the facade could remain within that Heritage Act and kind of remain as a heritage home. The sentiment was that you shouldn't be able to easily remove a heritage home. So that's kind of the recommendation that we went with coming forward.
Thank you, and that then we'll then come back to council at some point. Councilor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald, just really quickly wanted to mention that the Environment Committee, we had our last meeting of before the summer. We don't have another meeting scheduled till September, but our meeting was last Tuesday, and it was a visit to the Beaverbrook landfill. So it was a great visit. The Environment Committee visited the landfills 2 years ago. So pretty much everyone save one of the attendees had been there 2 years ago. So everyone was able to take in all the changes, all the positive changes that have been done at the Beaverbrook landfill site, and they really are remarkable in terms of moving things around. So now we're going to be able to better take advantage of the fully approved footprint of the landfill to be able to, to be able to take advantage of the entire capacity that we're approved for. Also, the facilities for the attendant there are, I don't even know how to compare what was there before versus what there is now in terms of the quality of it, but also in terms of the impression also that it gives to residents and the information that's there now, the excellent signage, clear signage, and also just the convenience that's been improved for residents to be able to register their vehicle, to be able to drop off, have ability to drop off tires, electronics, metal, all these things that are just helping divert waste away from the landfill, but also do it in a way that really encourages residents so that when they show up there, they're less likely to be disappointed. And electronic waste too, we'll take that there as well. So I just want big kudos to the improvements that staff have made. And it's, again, just, it really, it's a visual support of how much work's been done at the landfill and why we're seeing that continued increase in the lifespan of the landfill. Just that it's not sexy in any way, but the work that's been done there has really had a measurable impact. And it will benefit all the residents for years to come. So.
Thank you for that. I apologize for my late cancellation. I was actually visiting somebody on the previous file. That's why I was unable to attend that meeting. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just wanted to, mention on behalf of the archives at the same time, Saturday night, all of council attended a quiz night. We did, in the end, beat North Glengarry Council's score, so we're proud of that. And we were, it was well attended, 28 full tables of people came out to support both local museums. It's not directly archives related, but the MC and quizmaster was our, North and South Glengarry's Alan McDonald, Very well attended event, very well organized, and hopefully we see something similar coming in the future too for it. It was a good example of a quick and easy way to raise some funds for some worthy organizations, and I'd encourage others to reach out to them if you're looking for a good fundraiser.
I'd like to, while we're doing that, congratulate Councillor McDonnell for naming that tune. He won a quarter of them. I think 2 out of 8. He unfortunately, there was some somebody from a table that wasn't participating got the vote, so like that's a little unfair. And also congratulations to the mayor of North Glengarry for his wonderful $250 basket of cheese. All right. Thank you for all your updates, everyone. So we'll be moving into closed session, and there's a resolution for that. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that council convene to closed session at 7:51 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, K, plans and instructions for negotiations, specifically instruction for negotiations. F, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, and K, plans and instructions for negotiations, specifically contract negotiations. And then F, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, specifically receipt of legal advice. All those in favor? Carried. So coming out of closed session, it's moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that council rise and reconvene into open session at 8:46 PM without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Again, another closed session item, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-39, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 25th day of May 2026. All those in favor? Carried. Before adjournment, I do believe this is your, nobody's here, but it is your last meeting with us, so I didn't want to think we forgot about you. I should have done it whenever there was more of an audience, and maybe at the start, so you could have it doubly so. I'll start, well, I'm always the worst with words, so we'll go around the table if anybody wants to. I suppose we'll go Councillor Bougie, Councillor McDonnell, Councillor Jaworski, Deputy Mayor Lang, and then I'll just say I agree with them, so.
Well, Jamie, it's been a great, well, it's been what, 2 years? How long? Yeah, almost 2 years. You almost made it there. I feel like you came at a great time to kind of solidify what we have here and kind of steer the ship in the right direction and help kind of get things done. Like, I mean, there's another one today that's done, and we're happy to have it done. And we're happy that you are moving on, but moving close so that you're still nearby to help South Glengarry when needed. So all the best, and thank you for all the work you did for the township.
Yeah, thanks through you, Lachlan. Jamie, you have been a great asset to this community. You came in, as Trevor said, at the perfect time. You were a rock for our staff as well, coming out of a rocky patch and getting everybody behind and a good leader and all pulling the same direction. I know I've had nothing but comments, positive comments from staff about your work with us and from the public that have had the privilege of dealing with you. So I would like to say best of luck in your new line of work. Not too far away, so hopefully we'll be able to call you and hopefully you'll be thinking South Glengarry first when you're sitting in that chair in Cornwall. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't know why the first thing that came into my mind is that song, you know, like we're not here for a long time, but for a good time, or where exactly it goes. I don't know why that came in, but do thank you for what you did bring in the short amount of time that you were here. It was very nice that you helped stabilize the ship and kept it going, you know, well in, you know, the direction that council had pointed. And I know that staff has nothing but excellent things to say about your time here and the insights and the support that you provided. So all the very best moving forward, as much as it pains for me to say it, but we are glad that I am glad that you're staying within SDG. So best of luck there, and thank you for everything.
Thanks, Jamie. Much appreciated. Through you, Lachlan, by the way. At least Lachlan and I will get to continue working with you at County Council. That's a plus, but no, I'll echo what everybody else has said, and it's been much appreciated, and I think things have been going very well. So, thank you.
The song I thought when Councillor McDonnell was talking was "Will You Remember Me?" and then at South Glengarry. So I think that I think you will. I hope you will. I suppose. But I'll go back to the hiring phase. And a fairly heated discussion I had with a local CAO about who is going to apply and the quality of cut of individuals. And I will say that that person spoke very highly of you. I thought highly of you at that time. I believe we had crossed paths before in a few manners. I will fully say, I did advocate to say, like, there are great people in every municipality. You were one of them, and we were happy to have you. 20 months wasn't enough. You know, we love hiring. We're getting good at it, though. So thanks for keeping our muscle sharp there. And I think I said it during the staff appreciation breakfast. Is everybody said smile, and I said South Glengarry is 22.5% of the tax rate at the county. So just thank you very much for your time here. It was really great, everything that was mentioned in terms of like, I think the rock is probably a good use of words. We needed that, and you're the right person, and thank you very much for your time.
Well, maybe I'll just say a few words, but start with a huge thank you to council. You've been a real treat to work with, very respectful of one another and of administration. And thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been a huge honor to serve the residents of South Glengarry in this role. I think early when I started, Lachlan was very honest saying that South Glengarry is a very special place, and he certainly was. I learned that very quickly, that this is a wonderful community, loads of community pride, and it was really an honor to serve this community. And I would really like to thank the staff here, who have been just incredible. In supporting me in this role. Certainly was new to me, and I couldn't have done it or been successful without the incredible team of individuals, from the senior managers right down throughout the organization. It's just been a very wonderful group of committed people and such a positive workplace to be a part of. So a huge thank you to all of them for helping me through these 20 months and helping to really prepare me for this next challenge, which I'm excited to embark on. But again, a little bit at the same time sad to leave also. So thank you all.
And a reminder that this Wednesday at noon, there is a potluck that I think I previously said I would not attend, but I will attend. It is for the, if you can make it, as members of council. I know work gets in the way of that sometimes, but it is for to have staff and us see Jamie off, or Mr. Fothrop off appropriately. So, all right. Adjournment. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 8:54 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Have a good evening, everyone.